Hotep, I'm Dr. Gloria Latimore-Peace, host and producer of OmniU Presents the H3o Art of Life show. Again, we are bearing witness to the legacy of Abdul Rasheed Akbar. I'm learning more about him as time goes on. And to help me in that journey, I have some very illustrious guests whom I would like to introduce right now before we go to a clip of Abdul Rasheed Akbar in his own words. I want to introduce to you Bennie Lee, and on the screen you will see his affiliation. And I love that your middle name is my mother's name.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I can say Oroki, Ella,
Yes.
and it's, wait a minute, Rice is the last name,
Yes,
right?
yes, it is.
Okay, I got it all right. See, I told you, Zenobia. And Zenobia Renee Finney, who is, I guess, like a daughter to me, errant though she has been, not keeping up with her mom. And of course, Chawah. Chawah, it is so good to greet you. And Levi?
Levi Robinson.
Chawah Levi Robinson. Yes. You can tell that these people have not been in touch with me, and it's their fault, not mine. But I want to just introduce you, and then we want to look at Rasheed in his own words, and then talk about our reflections.
You look at Oscar, we had so many spirits. Why, with all this negative stuff that they're showing us on the television, you know, why, I hope and pray some filmmaker will have the vision to see so much greatness that's come through our community. We don't need they to give us permission to create a film. Make a film. We will rent the theaters if necessary to show the movie. We got to keep the struggle alive. Together we can do this. And we can make a film, begin to take it into schools, invite the schools, children out, with the lack of funds in the school, probably got to take it into the school because they probably can't bus them out to a movie theater. But our children, Hannibal's vision, Oscar's vision, and many other leaders we done had. I mean, we're talking about unrelentless talent, unrelentless spirits. If we don't tell the story, it'll never get told. It would be a shame that a young child one day, who was Barbara Hannibal? Who was Oscar Brown Jr.? We have to take that responsibility, that we don't keep them alive. We can't say the government, Congress, the stimulus money didn't come down the pipe, so therefore we didn't have the money to do this. We got to stop being the children of Lazarus, begging for some grant monies and that. The money we spend, the billions of dollars that the black community spend annually, if we had the wisdom just to see what Barbara Hannibal was trying to tell us, if we can take just a portion of this and put back into the salvation and the control and the preservation of our own legacy, at least we should have the willingness to do that. And I hope and pray that one day, and maybe God may push me to get into filmmaking, because I refuse to let the man's spirit and the Oscar and them spirit just go untouched. That don't make good common sense to me. Does crime pay? Yes, it does. Surely was stopping people from going to penitentiaries. Surely was stopping people from joining jails. They charge $100,000 when an inmate goes to jail. That just insured by Payne Webber for another $250,000. Then that's put on Wall Street as a national security, traded not by the general public, traded by international banks around the world. Most people don't even know their loved ones are being traded on Wall Street. Barbara Hannibal had that wisdom. So he was trying to keep us off of Wall Street in that capacity, as he was saying, a commodity. And that's what they have reduced to. Barbara Hannibal said, no, you're more than that. You're great. Sisters, you're more than just an African queen. Everything we see on the planet, even all the machinery here, was created by the mind of a male or a female. Had to come by route of a womb of a woman. And Barbara Hannibal was knocking at the conscience of all our young ladies and all our adult women. Rise up. You're not just the queen of Africa. You're the whole queen of the planet Earth. He raised the bar. And in raising the bar, he called a lot of us to work. And a lot of us fell short. And most of us have fallen short. I'm going to put a major call out. This is a state of emergency. If you say, if this flood, if we look at Katrina, Haiti, and all the different catastrophes, that was devastating. But I asked everybody, look at the amount of children are dying from drive-by shooting in the inner cities of America, across America and across the world. Way more than all those deaths that we serve from all those things. We surpass that annually. That's how many children are dying. Till we come up with an economic base and understand the sovereign revolution, we're going to continue to see crime increase at an astronomical rate that they've never seen before in their life. Prisons are going to be filled. Substance abuse programs are going to be filled with us. Unless we stand up. The bar is raised. Do we have the willingness, the tools? You left with the tools. The tools is here. We got everything to work with. Only thing on the table right now, do we have the willingness to do what the Creator has put in all of us to do? And if we choose to do that, we'll win the fight. We need not a leader, we need a leadership, a ship of leaders. And innately, we have a lot of people that are very talented. How do we weave them together, to work in a harmonious fashion that we can get some serious work done? And I think right now, our community has been conditioned by outside factors. When there's an issue in the community, there are only certain people they're going to call on, and they'll be out front in the media. Not that they're not they're doing good things. You got a lot of people behind the scenes doing some serious work that never get recognized for the work that they're doing. But we cannot continue to allow the people that's doing some serious work to go unlooked. We're going to have a march after the child is dead. We're going to do this after the person is dead. We the after folks. I don't know, maybe that word they gave us, the hereafter. We don't want to do nothing after everything's over with.
Well, we all have to smile because he was candid and he was on target. And this show was done after he paid tribute to Baba Hannibal Afrique and Okoro Harold Johnson. He was on the show to talk about that, and those were some of his observations at that time. And we did allow him to go, as he said, unlooked. And I like the fact that he used it in that way, because a very important part of African culture is to see each other. When we greet each other, we should see, we should look. I see you, you see me. We should acknowledge each other and not just go by looking into the face of your cell phone and, hold up your hand, what's up, and you don't really want to know and you don't care. How you doing? You don't really want to know, you don't really want to care. So unfortunately, we didn't pay tribute. We did exactly what he says. We didn't pay tribute to him while he lived in a way that we should. And perhaps now we can't pay enough tribute to him, but we are going to give it at least some attention. We understand that what he's calling, what does he say? This is a state of emergency. Yes, it is. We are called upon to do our share. We are called upon to work harmoniously together. And I know that all of you are in one way or another doing some very good work on behalf of the community. So I'm going to let everybody have a turn, but I think I want to start with Zenobia because she hasn't had a chance to speak.
Let me start by saying, in the words of those who are wise, I bear witness that there is but one God. And in that God we have our being. I am here to represent, to love, identify, and uphold that which is innate, a word that I learned to use in the company of Rasheed. Another word I learned to use with him was paradigm and paradox. And I say paradox because I was learning the al-Fatiha while I was cutting rib tips on 59th and Racine. How could something be? Well, we are who we are before we were born. And if you talk to Rasheed long enough, he would say, when the sperm goes into the vagina, there's enzyme in it to kill it. What would make God do such a thing? It is to ensure the survival of the fittest. So our existence here isn't happenstance or accident. There was something that he also stated. If I was in a dark room and I struck a match, would I be grateful? Yes. But what should I be doing? I should be looking for the light switch. And when I turn that light switch on, I need to be looking for the knob, a greater light. Because what happens if I hold that matchstick, three things, it's going to go out, I'm going to get burnt, and I'll be back in the dark. So I need to continually go into the place where the kingdom of heaven is, and that is within.
Well, a wonderful opening statement.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Chawah.
In the name of peace and love, I too bear witness that there is but one God. And no matter what we call him, as Rasheed helped me to understand best, God is, God is, God is. I worked with Rasheed in the prison ministry as a chaplain, and watching him interact with the brothers was a gift. Working with him helped me through a time in my life where I was going through some turmoil. And because of his non-judgmental attitude, because of his being receptive and understanding where I was, I felt free enough to be me and grow into the new level and dimension of myself without feeling like I was being watched or out of order. And his presence in my life was a blessing from the beginning to throughout, even now, because now I just have to communicate with him in a different way, because truly he is with us.
Well, he's on the show. We just saw him.
Yeah.
He's the other guest.
Yes.
You know, I've said before, ours is a community of the living and the dead and the yet unborn. That's oneness. You know, there's no separation. You know, we put a lot of emphasis on this body, you know, and it's a wonderful vehicle, and we should make good use of it, because while we're in this vehicle, we can get to know thyself. You know, this is an instrument for self-knowledge, for being able to realize the true self and not the personality that we all represent by these names and reputations and things we do and didn't do and all of that. So it's very important that we make good use of these instruments that we've been given. But at the same time, it is also very important that we don't put so much emphasis on these physical things that we lose sight of the fact that there was never a time when you did not exist in some form, whether it is in one of these vehicles or another, or absent from a vehicle entirely. So we need to think of ourselves, you know, in terms of longevity. We need to think of ourselves as, you know, we might be rehearsing, you know, for the next scene in the next act. And what we do with our time on this earth is important. Rasheed knew that. He behaved, you don't have to ask how you knew that, you saw what he did. And you knew that, somebody who worked with him told me that Rasheed would be doing, when he had the Legacy Theater, he'd be in there doing all the work, because he hardly had a crew, a staff. He was always short of staff, you know. I don't guess it occurred to him that he couldn't do something because he didn't have the number of hands that he needed to be able to do it. He just get up in the morning and be doing it all day, you know, and neglected himself, I'm told, had a very bad diet. Had I known that, I would have been on his case a lot. But I know Muslims as a rule have a good diet, but I should know that anybody who's as busy as he didn't have any regularity to his schedule about when he consumed his meals. He probably had very good discipline when it came to being vegetarian and doing all the things that you know, people do when they embrace certain traditions. But it's wonderful that he transcended tradition in the sense of the organized sense.
Absolutely.
You know, and he catered to the tradition of his ancestors and brought that to us.
He had an amazing way of making everybody feel comfortable. Whatever lifestyle, whatever way you chose to worship God, whatever way you chose to even acknowledge, even if there wasn't a form of your recognizing that there was an existence. But he would allow you to be yourself and help you to find the God in you. And that edutainment aspect of his way of with words was amazing to me, because it really helped you to understand that you're not just being entertained, but you're also being educated. And I was one of the ones that would roll up my sleeves and work tirelessly with him in some of those events. And I could see him day in and day out getting charged by what he was doing, as it still would wear him thin. But it was a way of helping to make his purpose on this planet worth his salt, and he truly was worth his salt.
Well, now you brought up something that makes Zenobia have to come back in, because Zenobia remembers a concept, a term that he coined.
Yes.
Talk about CAIDS.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yes. Cultural acquired immune deficiency syndrome is likened that of the AIDS virus, coming in looking like a helper, take on the uniform and look just like what it came into, at the same time carrying a diabolical agenda to annihilate the T4 cells, which are the leaders. Blow up the ship, kill the leaders, and the fish will belong to you. So when we address the issue of cultural immune deficiency, we have to admit that there is a problem. Now, please, let's not stay on Calvary. Let's come up out the grave. Immediately, we would shift into the 7 principles of the Nguzo Saba as salvation, as solution, as a simple application of that which is innately in you. So it's not, Rashid was also extremely funny. So we spent a lot of time laughing and a lot of time talking about paradox and paradigm. Let's go back to drug addiction. What kind of brilliance can look up into a light bulb and know that there's a little thin piece of metal in there that can unjam a hypodermic needle? What kind of genius is that? So we're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We're going to find what I call the continuum dynamic. That is the truth that is at the center of everything. And I'm going to go a little bit to the left and say, like Little Kim says, how many licks does it take to get to the center? That's where we want to be. And what Rasheed had an ability to do, which was very attractive to me, is take that thread and weave it through. There's one truth that makes the cycle and the circle. There's one truth, and if you look deep and stay long enough, past the part that makes you feel uncomfortable, you will find it. Not only find it, you will find it in yourself, and therefore making it easy to recognize it in other people.
Well, you know, he was so creative that he had to create his own language. And when we were editing that piece from the tribute to Baba Hannibal's show, and I heard him say unlooked, I wouldn't take that out of there for anything, because that was such a valuable, he had just said recognized, so we know he knows recognized.
Yes.
But the thing was, he said unlooked.
Mm-hmm.
When Rasheed said something, and especially if it was something that you were not accustomed to hearing, you needed to look deeply into that and say, why did he choose that? Why didn't he just say entertainment or education through entertainment? Why did he join the two? Why did he figure out that there was a cultural component to this immune deficiency, and that if you are going to ever get people whole again, you've got to immerse them in that in which they are deficient, which is the culture.
And yes,
yeah.
and you cannot use the disease to fix the illness. Let's get that straight. So that means that the whole default setting has got to go. So quit looking to these same people, places, and things to address you. They don't know you, don't like you, don't care about you. You're nothing but a number. They're trading you on Wall Street all day long. When you are born, you're traded $1 million. When you die, it's traded again. Let's get it straight. What is in us will keep us alive. Every time we go outside the bounds, we get stung. When we come back, there's harmony. So Rasheed would say wonderful quotes like, it's not the devil that tempts us, it's us that tempts him with opportunity. So it's not the devil. Devil didn't make you do anything. What happened was you got off the mark, which is what sin means, missing the mark.
You got out of touch.
Got out of touch.
Benny.
Yes.
Well, when we talk about him coining the term edutainment, it goes back to the breakdown of the Lion King. You know, little Simba was the main character in the Lion King, and Mufasa, being the king, would teach Simba as a little cub, one day he's going to become the king. And he would teach him things like the balance of life, and Simba, being a young adolescent, would cross those borders that his father taught him not to. And his father would have to come save him. And Simba would ask the father, would explain to the father, well, you were very brave, you run off the hyenas, you know, Whoopi Goldberg and them, and Mufasa would tell him, I'm only brave because I have to be. You know, I was afraid of losing you. And Simba would ask, well, Dad, would you ever leave me? He said, I tell you a story my father told me about the stars in the sky being the great kings of the past, watching over us, and one day the sun's going to set on my time as king and rise you up as future king. And as king, you must understand the balance of life. And then when Mufasa died in a stampede coming to save Simba, Simba go to his uncle and ask, what should I do? And his uncle say, run away and never return. And Simba crossed the desert, and he was awakened by a pig and a cat, Timon and Pumbaa. And they changed his culture. They taught him Hakuna Matata. Don't worry. You know, when the world turns its back on you, you turn your back against the world. Simba used to sing, I can't wait to become king, as a little boy, knowing one day he's going to be the future king. But they taught him Hakuna Matata. They changed his culture. They fed him slimy stuff. He laying in the grass. They asked him what he think about the stars. He told them the same story his father told him. And they laughed at him. Someone said, yeah, you're right, that is corny. So he was constantly losing who he was until one day the little monkey Rafiki came and popped him upside the head. And Simba asked, well, who are you? And Simba, Rafiki said, well, I know who you are. You're Mufasa's boy. And Simba hadn't heard that name in years. He said, come on, I'm going to show you your father still live. So he took him to this pond, and he said, look. And Simba said, I only see a reflection of myself. He said, no, look a little bit deeper. And then Mufasa's image appeared and said, Simba, you're my son, the son of a king. You are more than what you become in life. Go and earn your place in the circle of life. And then it dawned on Simba, I was born a king. I'm out here with Timon and Pumbaa and into all this north here, and he went back and he became that king. So the moral of that story is we have children watch it for entertainment, but it's us, the adults, have to teach them that we came across a middle passage, the Atlantic Ocean, and we met a Timon and Pumbaa, the European, that took away our language, that took away our culture, took away the essence to who we are, and this is who we think we are when we look in the mirror. This is who we are, but that's not who we are. We got to look a little bit deeper and recognize we the heirs of kings and queens, people that built the first brick building in the world, the pyramid, those who studied first form of medicine, Imhotep.
And the stars.
And yeah, when you go in the tomb, the solar system was in there when the Europeans thought the earth was flat, right? So that story is about teaching young black children through entertainment first and educating them on the moral of that story, what that story was. That Simba was a young African boy that one day would be a king, but was brought over here to captivity and lost the essence of who he was as an African here in America, and he still see himself like that until elders like Rasheed and Hannibal Afrique come to teach us that Zenobia was saying, there's a greater person in you than who you see yourself. And we use a cartoon, I wouldn't say cartoon, but we use stories like that to educate our young people, to bring them into a new awareness as to who they are and reconnect them to the group, to the diaspora, of who they really belong to.
Rasheed was our Rafiki.
He hit us upside the head.
Yes.
Make you think.
Yes, with some tickets, of course.
Okay,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
I am just want to say I'm just honored to sit here on this platform with each one of you all. You mentioned that sometimes we do not honor the people while they're here. And I turned 60 last year, so
Really?
I am really aware that I have more years behind than in front. And I am trying to do my very best to honor the people that I am with while I'm in their presence, to be fully present with people while I am with them. This woman and I go back a long way, and we were talking between time and discovered that we traveled the same roads as children, young children even. I lost a young woman in my life, November 2012. Niambi Taria Ingram died of a stroke, 39 years old, suddenly. And it affected my life in a way that I never thought, because I never thought Niambi would go anywhere. And so what I'm trying to do today is remember when I'm with you to be all the way with you and take you in all together. I am so glad that Rasheed passed my way, that I passed his way, that we were on a journey together at some point. And I'm here to inhale all that he was and all that he did and all that he continues to do. We had his words on the screen there, and I got excited all over again just about thinking about being with him. I spent some time last year at a fundraiser for an organization called I Am We. A couple, Paul and Letitia Thomas, have started some work, and they left the fundraiser, they left us asking us to be different when we left there. How would we be different? And I made a conscious decision that I would greet everybody I meet. So I take public transportation, and I see a lot of strange characters on public transportation, but I speak to whoever I sit down next to. If I'm this close to you, my arm is touching you, I need to say hi to you. And so I do that. On the way over here, it was a guy on the train drinking beer on the train, and I make eye contact with people. I've been homeless at some point myself, and I know what it's like for people to be looking over you. So I had made a decision to look at people, look right at them. The Dionne Ward song says, if you see me walking down the street and I start to cry,
Walk
he's
on
telling me,
by.
walk on by. So I look at people in the eye. When I see them, I greet them, I embrace their spirits. And again, I am just honored to sit here with each one of you right now, this day, this moment.
It's an honor to sit here with you, sister, the sister with the pen and with the words, and who just flowed so beautifully out of her heart this morning in order to bring us a presentation that I hope you'll be giving at his memorial service.
Yes, I'd be honored.
Yes. But I don't want to talk about Rasheed in past tense, because Rasheed wants to live on in those lives that he touched, because he could have spent his time in other ways.
Yes.
You know, he did not have to be wandering around finding people, you know, looking under stones and finding people, you know, who were distracted by the ways of the world. He did that because he thought it was his duty, and he thought it would make a difference. And so we have to make a difference. We have to do our purposes. Whatever your purpose is, you're working with the formerly incarcerated. How did you come to do that? Who founded your organization? What is it that you do?
Well, I've been to prison 3 times, and like I say, I've been through the juvenile prisons. So I grew up in and out those systems because of the life I lived as a gang affiliated and eventually becoming a drug addict. And a lot of formerly incarcerated people complain about they can't get jobs because of their backgrounds, or they can't do this. And I realized that as long as you believe you can't get a job because of your background, then you'll believe you can't get one. And so I decided to call a meeting using some old street influence I had. I called a meeting on the west side where I come from, and over 47 people showed up, all convicted felons, and maybe 12 were women. And I appealed to them that we the most passive group in the country. We complain about our circumstances, but we don't do nothing about it. Even the gay community came to fight for their rights. The handicapped came to fight for their rights. Black people came to fight for their rights. And here we are complaining, but we're not in the fight. And so out of that, we formed NAFI, National Alliance for the Empowerment of the Formerly Incarcerated. And we went right into setting up what we call reentry circles. This was a safe place where formerly incarcerated and convicted men and women can come to talk about what they're dealing with, to kill the ambivalence. You know, there's a part of them want to complete parole, stay out and do well, but then when they run into these barriers, these collateral consequences, they tend to seek means of survival the old way. So we try to show them how to kill off that part of them and trust in this part. You know, I myself had to make the transition from being an outlaw to becoming a citizen. And see, it's hard trying to be a citizen because citizens obey the law. And after you've been breaking the law all your life, that's the strongest part of you. So you need some nurturing, you need some support, someone to coach you through that. And since that time, we created these reentry circles where we try to put them in every community where there's a concentration of formerly incarcerated and convicted people. You know, here in Illinois, over 70% of the people in Illinois prisons are the repeated offenders. These are the people that's going in and out of prison. 65% of them come from 6 neighborhoods in Chicago. That's who make up 65% of the repeated offenders in Illinois prisons. And so we're trying to set these reentry circles up in the communities where these people come from and are being paroled back to. Because when you look at, as they talk about the economy, the jobs now that pay a decent living salary requires a college degree. And the average convicted felon do not even have a high school diploma.
Don't have a GED.
So that put them in a 1/3 column where they compete against jobs in a 1/3 column with people that have a high school diploma and do not have a background. And some of the jobs in that column don't hire convicted felons, so they're working out of a 1/10 column of the jobs here in Illinois. And so they have a 90% chance of going back to prison and a 10% chance of staying out. So we want to get in their life to broaden that for them, to teach them that, hey, you can do that. It's like iron sharpen iron. Like it take a recovering addict to help another addict, or alcoholic to help an alcoholic. So we believe it take another formerly incarcerated person to help another formerly incarcerated person to make their transition, not just physically. So it has to be a paradigm shift. You know, I got to see myself different, and I got to see the world different, and then I got to see myself functioning in that world. And sometimes that's frightening when you got to disarm yourself with all the old survival tools you had to survive, and now you got to be vulnerable out here in a world where there's a lot of crime and violence, and you're comfortable resorting to old street survival techniques, and now you got to become this citizen, and that's very scary. You know, when you see the potential, you're being victimized. So when you got a mentor in your life, a reentry coach in your life, to kind of like normalize what you're going through and make it a little easier when you got someone that's guiding you down there. And that's what I needed, you know, being 32, never worked, never had a Social Security card, and now I got to put a shirt and tie on and dress like the guy I used to victimize, and I wanted to take the tie off. But these guys was able to normalize for me. They went through it. And to sit in a GED class at 32, learning how to do fractions, multiplications, and want to quit every week. But these guys normalized, they went through it, and that's what got me to get through, to get the GED, to move on to become a certified drug abuse counselor, sitting in a setting in a treatment facility discussing cases, and everyone else had degrees and using clinical terminologies, and I'm feeling incompetent. And I wanted to quit because I'm feeling inferior, but these guys encouraged me to get in school, and so I became certified. Then I got an associate's degree in mental health and substance abuse, and then went on to get a bachelor's degree, and eventually my master's degree in inner city studies. And now, for the last 6 years, I'm a professor at Northeastern.
At inner city.
Yeah, I'm a professor there.
Right.
So it was through my experience that I take that and try to show brothers and sisters that it's going to be a lonely walk. You know, and we know it ain't no rules in a crowd that don't play fair. So you got to come out of that crowd. You know, it's a population of formerly incarcerated and convicted people out there that are doing good. So like you were saying, Zenobia, Rasheed would say, I've been there, done that. So I can take away any excuse a brother might come up with or a sister that they can't succeed because of their background. I mean, I spent 3 years on death row, been charged with 15 counts of murder, 2 attempt murder, mob action, labeled as a gang leader, the whole shebang. If I can excel, that little case you went to prison for and all that, ain't no way, you know. So I see myself as an institution. You know, I see myself as an institution, so I try to pass that on to brothers and sisters. You can't let these psychological blocking agents hold us back. We got to study what W.E.B. Du Bois in his writing, The Soul of Black Folks, talk about the double conscience we have as black people, how we view ourselves as black and how we believe the world view us as black people. And most formerly incarcerated and convicted people have this double conscience, how they see themselves as a convicted felon and how they believe the world see them, and then become psychological blocking agents to hold them back from stepping into their greatness. You know, so we try to pass that on.
Well, that was certainly a lot to consider. I used to have a prison ministry, and one of the things that I said often was that I was there to help the brothers and sisters get out of jail while they still in jail. Because many of them were in jail before they went behind the bars. So when you talk about that psychological thing, that double consciousness, that way of viewing yourself, Hunter Adams is writing a wonderful book, and I am on my knees practically begging him, please publish it. Please don't find out nothing else, just give us this right now. Because he talks about the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves, the stories that other people tell themselves about themselves, the stories that we tell ourselves about other people, the stories that other people tell themselves about us. And finally, I pointed out the story that other people tell other people about us. We got such bad press that we believe the stories that are told about us. Nobody ever has to get to know black people because they presume they already know you. You can go to the remotest part of the world where no one has ever seen the likes of you, and they will treat you as though they already have met you and had experience with you. They prejudge you because your reputation precedes you. And so we are caught up in, the media is presenting, he said, tell our vision, didn't he say it? Tell my vision. The media is presenting an image of our youth to our youth, and they are buying it. They see themselves this way. They don't see the circumstances that are leading them into the kind of anti-self behavior. I don't care about antisocial. The anti-self behavior, the destructive things they do because they don't know who they are. They don't, not only do that, they not know their royalty, they're nowhere near approaching any knowledge of divinity. So, we are allowing this story to be repeated if we don't interrupt it.
Right.
And Hunter now has a theory, or I don't know if it's his theory, but he's famous as Rasheed for coming up with these terms. And he did a piece at the center last week in which he talked about the disruption theory. The disruption theory is a theory in which, in the terms of the formerly incarcerated and some who still are, they say taking you off your square. You're never stable. Nothing is never orderly because you're on your way to do something and something else jumps off. Now you're distracted by that, you over here, you attending to that, this problem pops up, this issue develops. It is very difficult in an environment in which you are not valued to live an orderly kind of existence. So you are constantly off center, you are constantly leaning, you constantly off balance. How do you think, how can you remain rational? How do you operate when you tilt it, when you're not standing upright, and when you are listening, when you're being bombarded day in and day out on every form of media with an image of yourself that is a lie.
That's being crucified.
But it is reinforced everywhere you look, everywhere you go. Somebody has to disrupt that. That was Rasheed Akbar.
Yes, it was.
He gonna come into your life and he gonna bring that other story. He gonna bring a story that you need to hear. You've got to get the status quo off its square. Because if you let the status quo remain the status quo, we're gonna get what he said. The prisons will be filled, the drug abuse programs will be filled, we will be going out of here like nobody's business. We'll be hemorrhaging children. So we have to disrupt that. We have to know that there's a concerted effort on the part of some forces not to allow us to just walk the straight and narrow, mind our own business, and and don't bother nobody, and won't nobody bother you. We were doing that in Africa. We was minding our business. We wasn't bothering nobody. We came over here, we looked around, some of us stayed, some of us went back home. We didn't all come here on a ship, not a slave ship. Some of us came here because we could navigate the ocean, and we came over here and spent some time. That's how come we could be runaway slaves.
Yeah, well, my people were here already. I'm Choctaw, Cherokee, and Blackfoot with some little Irish and stuff going on.
Right.
Rasheed says emergency. And what comes to me immediately is emerge and see. As long as
now you done caught the Rasheed. She got the Rasheed.
It's the reason why we hung out together.
Okay.
We're wordsmiths up here, all of us.
Okay.
Yes.
Rasheed-esque.
Yes, emerge and see. As long as I'm in your business, who's minding mine? I remember a wonderful woman that we know, Angel Muhammad. And I called Rasheed and I said, oh, and he loved Angel too. I said, Angel, such and such and such. And we were going to do this. Remember, we were talking about the show, Sister to Sister, blah, blah. And I went on, Angel. And he listened to me intently. And he said, Zenobia, he said, you got to stop worshiping at the feet of other people. When are you going to understand that it's you? It's you. What you see is you. So that takes the spotlight off of the outside and into the inner. It says Christ, that Christ is the anointed consciousness. Disciple means to follow the ways of the Lord. If you're a vice lord, you got a grip on your vices. You know, if you are stoned, then you are solid. If you are Catholic, then you are universal. That was my kind of song. Because when I go into other places, people want to kill off the place where you've been. No, it's a continuum dynamic. I'm not going to kill the Christ in me because I'm going to take the Al-Fatiha. I'm not going to kill the Islam in me because I practice Ifa. I'm not going to kill the Ifa in me because I practice Palo. The practice is not in the name, it's in the discipline. So when we get through talking and take these uniforms off and these black uniforms, who am I really? Who am I really? And at the end of the day, that's really all I know is who I am. When I went to, I did go to Africa, and the wonderful thing about this circle on this stage is that people went once, went twice, kept going back, take people. In our circle, it began to be saturated with the going and coming. And the knowledge that Africa is not somewhere away. Rasheed told me before I left, he said, now remember, don't go looking for yourself. You taking yourself with you. So in that African experience, I was in a bathroom in Luxor, Egypt, and I saw a sister, chocolate sister, and I said in Arabic, Gamil, Gamil. We're in the bathroom. She looked at herself with disdain and rubbed her skin and said, black, black. And tears began to roll down my eyes because I can identify with self-contempt. I came from there. In Mexico, you get a chance to see the little brown people pushing the broom and the people with the colored people, blonde hair and the fair skin, they're doing all the front line work. I'm like, wow, this really is a global situation. And thank God for Marimba Ani.
She's coming on the 7th, was it the 17th of May at the center. That's why Rasheed's memorial couldn't be that
amazing.
day because Marimba.
I love her so much.
She'll be here.
That book is so heavy. I mean, literally heavy.
Yeah, right.
Now she put the glossary of terms in the front because you can't define Europeans out of English. Matter of fact, you can't define anything circular or circular with a linear language. English is very linear. So out of that book, the Asili, the seed, she began to define the development of the European in the world. They had a beginning and a middle. You know, we'll see how it ends. But they came from somewhere. And there was an unveiling and a collaboration of a global patriarchal society that now governs us in every way. So there is no salvation outside of us. Islam raped Africa on the east side, and Christianity raped Africa on the west side. And then you got everybody come on down the middle. So what happened? We're sitting here on this stage doing what we do. It may not be reviewed across the world, but I guarantee you this, and the elders have said, when you sneeze, we catch a cold.
When
So
you
we are
catch a
connected.
cold, we get pneumonia.
Yes,
Yes, that's it. That's the other part.
But the thing is, I always like to revert to the fact that the period of chattel bondage, and I really disdain the use of the word slaves because we were captives.
Yes.
yes.
You know, captives have captors, and that's what we had. That period in our history is relatively brief when you consider the millions of years of history that we had preceding that. We cannot lose sight on that. We cannot say that we have been forever, you know, blemished forever because we had this period during which we were dehumanized and deculturized and all the D's, D meaning down, all the D's that you can think of. We cannot focus on that. We have to remember that we, as Yikwe Arma says, we are not a people of yesterday.
That's right.
And so the history that we have, the long, long history that we had, the glorious history that we had,
Yes.
we cannot get out of touch with that. We can never lose that. And we can never say that the lot that we see now is the only reality we have ever known, because we have known a reality that is so awesome that it just takes your breath away when you start to learn about it. So it's important that you understand that, so that you are not, you're not trying to reform people. You are trying to help people discover who they are, so that they can make, because whatever we do to people is superficial. You do something to them on the outside. Nothing changes in here. If nothing changes in here, nothing is really changed. So it's good that you're doing this work. Do you want to have 3 minutes, Chawah? Because I got 3. You could have them.
Okay. Well, my perspective is going from the womb. I lived in Africa for 8 years, and I practiced midwifery.
Wonderful.
And coming back to the United States, I chose to be a doula. And I am now working with In His Grip Ministries with a project we call Womb Care. And what that project is an opportunity to help women to know their bodies, to prepare their bodies before they are conceiving or while they're in conception, to know what to do. You know, when we were younger, our parents would not allow us to watch bad movies, scary movies, if we were pregnant. And those are the kinds of things that we got to get back to. And we're way, a long way away from that. But the Womb Care Project will help to nourish the world from the inside out. Because if we don't reach these babies from the womb, you know, they're gone. You know, there's so much that can be nurtured from inception, from conception on. And if we can help to educate and edutain and prepare, we can make a difference in the world. And that's the portion that I'm holding the torch for right now.
Well, I'm glad that you're doing that work. I never knew that work was being done, and I certainly would have benefited from it. I had 7 children. I could have used some help over there. And you've got your one wonderful son who is the only.
I have 3 children. That was a baby.
That's the baby?
You all raised the last one. Thank you. He's the first non-church raised child. He don't know the Pledge of Allegiance.
But he knows spirituality.
He does. Yes.
Okay.
He does. He
that's
knows
his mama.
Rasheed. Yes.
Right
and
there.
He knows the community that you see on this stage. I can say, help me knit the fabric of me and my family. And the work that I do, wherever I do it, is a daily walk. And I carry you all with me, and I thank you. I thank you, and I just love you so much.
Well, I will not let you go unlooked. I will not let you go unlooked. I will not let you go unlooked, and I will certainly not let you go unlooked. And we have not let Abdul Rasheed Akbar go unlooked.
Yes.
And we will keep his memory alive in our hearts. And I'm sure that, as you say, you feel his presence because he is in us.
Yes.
What do they say? What did John Mbidi say in African religions and philosophies? I am because you are, and you are because I am.
Mbutu.
Mbutu. Hotep.